Hi friends, I'm back with you. Let us begin lecture on derivatives and introduction. This will be relevant for the students studying financial derivatives of MBA semester 4th. Now let us take a look what I have discussed with you. As you know, in the stock market there are different kind of trading segments. Segment relating to equity trading, segment relating to derivatives trading, currency trading, and other things. Now I'll be introducing you about the derivatives. What are the derivatives? What is included in that? When it was introduced in India and relevant concepts. So that is our topic of the today's lesson. Let us begin. Derivatives, as you know, derivatives transactions are the one which derive their value from an underlying asset. Underlying asset can be equity share, bond, preference share, commodity, currency, or any other concept. Even nowadays, world over, we have weather derivatives also. That means even the temperature, rainfall, and all those things also can be traded in the form of a derivative product. Now, a derivative product will be the one, or derivative contract will be the one which derives the value from an underlying asset. Meaning thereby is the value of the derivative contract will be realized by the buyer or the seller of the derivatives contract only when the price of the underlying asset makes a movement in the spot market or in the hand delivery market, which is also called as cash market. Now, throughout my lecture, whenever I refer to any derivatives, for my purpose, underlying asset will be stock or the shares of the index. Reason being, we are talking about financial derivatives and it has got limited scope for that purpose because the same thing is focused in our syllabus also. Now look at the fact, how derivatives trading started in India. As you know, the stock market started in India way back in 1875. But at that time, only equity trading was started. Then subsequently, we kept on innovating the things, adding the things, and something like that. In the year 2000, in India, index futures were the first derivative contracts launched in the year 2000. So, index futures are the one which were started in Indian derivatives market in the year 2000. That means in this year, regulatory authorities granted the permission to different exchanges to introduce derivatives products. Before this time, they were not permitted to launch derivative contracts. Contracts were only available in stocks, bonds, debentures, and related documents. Index futures are a tool to speculate as well as to hedge the risk of the portfolio. In my subsequent lessons, I'll tell you what is the meaning of speculation with the help of derivatives, how hedging can be done with the help of derivatives, what are the different hedging tools and something like that. Till then you have to wait for these strategies. Let me give you first orientation what derivatives are there and how these have been introduced in Indian derivatives market. Stock options and stock futures were introduced in the year 2001 on BSE, that is Bombay Stock Exchange, popularly also known as Mumbai Stock Exchange or the Stock Exchange Mumbai, and the National Stock Exchange of India Limited, NSEIL. In short, we call it as NSE. So Bombay Stock Exchange is called as BSE and National Stock Exchange is called as NSE. It means you can see from the citation given here that it was the index futures which were launched first. Thereafter, we launched the futures contract on individual stocks like stocks of Reliance, Tisco, Telco, Philips Carbon Black, and something like that. Exchange traded derivatives are free from counterparty default risk. Now you will learn in the subsequent lessons also what is counterparty default risk and how it is eliminated when these are exchange traded derivatives. By exchange traded derivatives, I mean a derivative contract which is bought and sold through the mechanism of regular stock exchange, recognized stock exchange. Because if you know, in any country across the globe, none of the exchanges can function without seeking the permission from the respective regulatory body of the company. Like in India, at present, Securities and Exchange Board of India grants the permission to different stock exchanges or exchanges dealing in the financial products. Earlier, we had CCI, Controller of Capital Issues, and all these bodies derive the powers from Securities and Contract Regulation Act 1956, which was converted into Securities and Contract Regulation Rules 1957. These have been amended from time to time to match the requirement of the time. So exchange traded derivatives are free from counterparty default risk. Now, what is the meaning of this? If suppose one party is the buyer of the derivatives contract, certainly another party will be the seller of the derivative product. In that case, settlement of the derivatives contracts will take place in future, that we all know. Or for that matter, for any kind of financial product, there is a time lag between trading and settlement. Trading might take place today. Trading means negotiation and agreement between the parties to buy or sell either the stock or underlying asset in the form of derivatives. But the settlement is done after some days. It may be 1 day, 2 days, 10 days, 15 days, 1 month, 3 months, and something like that, depending upon the provisions and features of the contract. Now, by the time settlement has to be done, it may be possible that one of the parties, that is either buyer or the seller, might default, might not honor his or her commitment. That risk is called as counterparty default risk. But when I say exchange traded derivatives are free from counterparty default risk, that means to say there is a safety net created on exchange traded derivatives. And if you enter into any exchange traded derivatives contract, you are free from the counterparty default risk. Let us proceed further. Derivatives are such financial instruments which derive the value from the underlying asset. As I have been speaking for last few minutes, underlying asset may be a share, commodity, debenture, bond, index, or something like that. And recent concepts are there. We have energy derivatives, weather derivatives, commodity derivatives, currency derivatives, interest rate derivatives. All those things become the underlying asset for derivatives contracts. Now, you might be surprised, can I deal in all these or any of these? That depends from country to country. It will be the regulatory body of the country, exchanges of the country, which will allow certain assets to function as underlying asset, and certain assets may not function. Like in India, if we say commodity derivatives, then also certain limited commodities which have been allowed by FMC, Forward Market Commission, they are allowed to be traded in India. Nothing else is traded to be India as derivatives products. Because you know, commodities are the one which affect the day-to-day life economy of the country. So from time to time, FMC, that is Forward Market Commission in India, will regulate that which commodity can be used as underlying asset for commodity derivatives or not. In general, in Hindi, you might have heard as Vaida Karobar. So generally people consider Vaida Karobar means commodity derivatives. So they have become synonyms in India. Vaida Karobar means commodity derivatives. In their jeera, gold, rice, and all these products, even gold is there, silver is there. All those items are available as underlying assets. Guar gum is one of the famous commodity agriculture crop. Cotton and other cotton seeds are there, mustard is there, mustard oil is there, chana is there, sugar is there. So all these products are in the derivatives category. Derivatives, they become the underlying asset for the derivatives. Now, what are the common derivatives available for trading? Option contract, futures contract, forward contract, index futures, and swap. Exchange traded derivatives and counterparty default risk, as I was talking. An exchange traded derivatives transaction is traded through the member of the stock exchange called broker of the exchange. So here I'll tell you how the counterparty default risk is eliminated, or rather you get a protection for that. Every broker is required to maintain security deposit, bank guarantee, or margin deposit with the exchange. So let us say if Mr. X is the broker of the stock exchange Mumbai, he will be required to maintain all these three deposits. And generally this runs into crores of rupees. Now every broker takes margin deposit from his client. So there is a layering in this case. If X is dealing for his 100 number of clients, so from every client he will collect the margin deposit. so that he is protected against the counterparty default risk. Idea is to say, if these clients after doing the transaction might deny that they never did the transaction, might fail to honor their commitment, then the broker can use that margin deposit to fulfill his losses arising from the default by the customers of his clients. In turn, broker will deposit the margin money collected from his clients with the stock exchange. Now, how exchange will use it? If suppose there are two brokers, X and Y, have done some derivatives transaction on the stock exchange. In that case, both have deposited the margin money with the stock exchange. Now, if X does a default in future, his margin deposit money, his bank guarantee, his security deposit held with the exchange can be used to fulfill the losses to Mr. Y, who is the counterparty in this case. So in that way, the Mr. Y gets protected if X does the default, and vice versa is also possible. So that's what I have given over there. In case of default by the broker, these deposits can be used by the exchange to fulfill the losses arising on account of broker's default. Hence, exchange traded derivatives are free from counterparty default risk. I hope you get the idea what is counterparty default risk and how it gets eliminated or you get protected while dealing in the exchange traded derivatives. So my advice is there, always deal in exchange traded derivatives, deal through authorized brokers and not through the unauthorized people. This is the advice for your safety purpose. Now let us proceed as I had named few of the derivatives contracts. Option contract. An option contract is an agreement between two parties to buy or sell the underlying asset, for which buyer of the option has all the rights without any obligation to execute the settlement of the transaction. Now, to get this right, buyer of the option will pay the premium upfront. When I say upfront, means on the date of buying the contract, date of entering into negotiation with the another party, that is seller of the derivatives contracts. So buyer of the option has all the rights without any obligation. That means if he has obtained the right to buy the underlying asset before or by the end of expiry, that means he can buy that particular underlying asset. He has no obligation to buy. If he wishes, he can let it go, not to exercise his right, and option will expire on expiry. Seller of the option has all the obligation without any rights. On the other hand, if a party is selling the option contract, that party has all the obligations without any rights. That is the meaning of seller has all the obligation without any right. As buyer of the option has only the rights without any obligation, therefore he makes upfront payment of premium to the seller of the option. And premium is over and above the exercise price. Exercise price will be different. Exercise price is the price at which buyer of the option can exercise his right to buy or sell the underlying asset. Right? If it is a call option, buyer of the option has the right to buy the underlying asset. If it is a put option, the buyer of the option has the right to sell the underlying asset. Then let us look at various parameters relevant for the option transaction or features of the option transaction. Number one, underlying asset including lot size. As I mentioned earlier, underlying asset may be equity share, debenture, treasury bills, gold, any other commodity, currency. That will be the underlying asset. And lot size. That means minimum quantity for which transaction can be executed in that particular derivatives contract. Let us say for the shares of Reliance Industries Limited, exchange has notified that lot size will be 200 shares. That means if you execute one derivative contract, it has to be for minimum 200 and then subsequently in the multiple of 200 shares. Strike price or the exercise price is the next feature. Strike price or exercise price is the price at which buyer of the option can exercise his right to buy or sell the underlying asset on or before the expiry. So let us say underlying asset is Reliance Industries Limited. Exercise price is decided 1150. It means, and it is a call option to be more precise, it means buyer of the option has the right to buy shares of Reliance at the rate of 1150. on or before the expiry. Then we have three things written over there in the next point: duration, strike date, and exercise date. Duration means for what is the duration of the contract. That means till what duration buyer of the option can exercise his right. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. Generally, the most common, most frequently allowed and traded duration in the Indian stock market for derivatives is 1 month, 2 months, and 3 months. 1 month is generally referred as first month, 2 months means second month, and 3 months means third. Exercise date. Now, since exchange traded derivatives are a kind of standardized standardized derivatives products. By standardized derivatives product, I mean a derivative contract in which certain parameters are regulated by the regulating exchange, the exchange where the contract is being traded. So exchange decides, let us say if we have purchased call option for the month of April. Now when can you exercise? If it is European option, it can be exercised only on the last day of the expiry. Now April has got 30 days. On which day? And exchange has notified it. All the derivatives transaction which have got monthly duration can be exercised if it is of European nature only on the last Thursday of the month. So we say that is the expiry of the option contract. So if you have entered into a transaction for April, so that can be exercised or that will expire on last Thursday of April. If it is for the May, then last Thursday of the May, likewise last Thursday of the June, and so on. Then comes premium. Premium is the price of the option contract which is negotiated mutually by both the parties, that is buyer of the option and seller of the option. Option can be of two basic types, call option or put option. Call option is the one in which buyer of the option has the right to buy the underlying asset on or before the expiry. Again and again I am repeating word on or before the expiry. When it will be on or when it will be before the expiry will be explained immediately after this point. Put option. A put option is the one in which buyer of the option has the right to buy the underlying asset on or before the expiry. And such buying and selling of the underlying asset is executed at the exercise price for the number of lots purchased by the buyer of the option. The premium is already paid by the buyer of the option on the date of buying the option. Option can further be classified depending upon the nature or style of exercise. American option versus European option. If an option is American styled option, it can be exercised on any day up till the expiry. That means on 1st April 2020, someone is buying American call option for the month of April. Now, as I told you, last Thursday of the April will be the expiry date of this option. But since it is American option, the buyer of the option can exercise his right any day from 1st April till the last Thursday of the April, including the last Thursday. If that is the nature of option, or if that provision is inculcated, we will call it as American option. So now things will become like this. It will be call American option. So a call American option is the one in which buyer of the option can exercise the option on any day up till the expiry. Whereas if it is European option, call European option for the month of April and purchased by a buyer on 1st April. He has purchased it, he has paid the premium, but he can exercise his right to buy the underlying asset only on the date of expiry. That will be last Thursday of the month April. Similarly, on 2nd April, you buy an option for June. Because as of any month, options are available for first month, second month, and the next month, third month. So if you buy on 2nd April an option, call option, which is of European style for the month of June, that means this option can be exercised only on the last Thursday of June, not before that, because it is European option. So it becomes call European option. In short, we call it CE. C for call and E for European. If it is American, CA. C for call, A for American. So if on 2nd April you buy CA, that is call American option on underlying asset Reliance for one lot meaning here is 200 shares. You pay the premium immediately. You decided premium 10 rupees per share. So 10 times 200, because 200 is the lot size for one lot. So you have paid 2000 rupees on 2nd April to the seller of the option. Now, being the buyer of call American option, you can exercise from the very next moment you have purchased the option. That means from 2nd April itself, and this exercise of the right is valid till last Thursday of the June. So that is American option. So we can have call American, call European, put American, put European. Expiration of the option. Now, if an option is not exercised by the end of the expiry, then it will simply expire unexercised. Now, who has the right to exercise? Only buyer of the right, buyer of the option has the right to exercise. So these are the common features. Then certain features are regulated by the exchange out of this. Like underlying asset and lot size will be regulated by the exchange. Strike date will be regulated by the exchange. Whether it is American or European, it depends upon exchange whether to allow for the European or American. Then the next feature we have margin deposit. As we had seen that every exchange traded derivative is free from counterparty default risk. So to protect against that, as soon as a client or customer or investor does a derivatives transaction, he will deposit margin money with the broker. And in turn, broker is required to deposit the same money with the exchange. So that a safety net gets built up. At any point of time, a counterparty default risk is there, either at the level of investor or at the level of broker. Exchange can use that margin deposit to fulfill the losses arising due to counterparty default risk. So that is why margin deposit is deposited. Then another parameters, these are not the parameters but features associated with derivatives, square up and open interest. Square up means buying a transaction and selling the same, buying a contract and selling the same before expiry, or selling it and then buying it before the expiry. So let us say on 2nd April, you buy a call European option for June for one lot on Reliance Industries Limited with exercise price 1150. Now look at the fact, what are the features? Underlying asset is Reliance, 1150 is the exercise price, duration is 3 months, expiry date is last Thursday of June. Now this will be called as open interest of yours, you being the buyer, for one lot open interest. Similarly, it will be open interest, one lot for the seller. So buyer is long and seller is short. So long is termed as buying and short is termed as selling. Now let us say till 30th April, you don't do anything, you sit coolly, and on 30th April, you find that now it is beneficial and you wish to sell the same option. That is underlying asset Reliance, one lot, exercise price 1150, expiry June. You can go and ask your broker, please sell my so-and-so option, which I spoke right now, and that is sold at a premium of 25 rupees per share. So you had paid 10 rupees premium earlier, now you are selling it for 25. So you get a gain of 15 rupees per share. Lot size is 200, 15 times 200 is your gain. On the other hand, if you happen to sell it for only 3 rupees per share, that depends upon the market scenario. The price is the function of market forces, market supply and demand, market mechanism. All those things affect the price. So if you happen to sell it for the 3 rupees per share, so you get only 600, whereas you paid 2000 rupees earlier when you purchased it. So that is the meaning of, till the time it was not reversed, it was open interest. The moment you have squared up from your side, your position becomes zero. That open position has been closed out. Then comes the settlement. How the settlement will take place on the expiry. So on the expiry, all the open positions are settled. Settled means buyer will pay the money if it is being exercised, and seller will deliver the quantity, or buyer will deliver the quantity in case of, quantity means number of underlying shares, in case of put option, and receive the money. Now all the open position can be settled in two different ways: cash difference settlement and the physical settlement. Now for the option, as soon as you see an option in the market, because any share on which option transaction is available or future transaction is available, the same share will be available in the spot market also. or cash market also. So we can find out the status of the option contract. Either it will be in the money, at the money, or out of the money. For a call option to be in the money, ruling price of the share in the market, or we say spot price of the share in the market, whenever spot price is more than the exercise price, call option is said to be in the money. Because by exercising this, buyer of the option will have the gain, or he is likely to have the gain. Whereas if spot price is equal to the exercise price, it is at the money, so it is a call option. On the other hand, out of the money call option is the one in which spot price is less than the exercise price. That means buyer of the option is not inclined to exercise it because he has no apparent gain in this case. Such call option will be out of the money. Reverse will be applicable when you evaluate put option from the angle of status of the option contract. In the money put option will be the one market price or ruling price of the share is less than the exercise price. Thereby, buyer of the option will exercise the option and can have the gain. So in the money option is always exercised. Whereas at the money option, again, spot price is equal to the exercise price. In case of put, it will be at the money. And whenever spot price or ruling price or price of the underlying asset in the cash market is more than the exercise price, none of the buyer of the option will come and exercise the option because he is not going to have a gain, rather he will incur a loss if he exercises the option. So that's the way that option will be out of the money. And every time whenever someone goes in the market to exercise the option, he will see whether it is in the money, then he will exercise. At the money, he is indifferent. For out the money option, he will let it expire simply. And then we'll further see when an option is there, there has to be some payoff also, intrinsic value and time value of the option. So that is the way we have specified so far different features of the option contract. And in next class, we'll discuss about the features of futures. Thank you.